we were discussing the contents of what has been said by the Buddha in the Samyutta Nikaya Virada Sutta. In brief, the essence is that whoever it may be, if he or she walks the path of Satipatthana, or if she doesn't walk the path of the Satipatthana, then he or she will be deviated or alienated from the pure and noble Eightfold Path. Then, if one does not practice Satipatthana, because Satipatthana means, in essence, mindfulness, one's activities are restrained by mindfulness, and if one is not mindful with the practice of Satipatthana, then one is bound to do wrong things by word, speech and mind, by body, speech and mind. If one practices, then one will be able to withstand any adverse conditions in life, and one will become matured in one's knowledge. If, on the other hand, if one is deviated from the practice of Satipatthana, then one is bound to become very violent in one's actions by body, speech and mind, and one will not be able to conduct in the right way as a good human being. If one does like this, then one will not be able to control oneself, and at the same time one will harm others. The analogy given here is that if when you are driving a car, you are driving on the right track, whether the vehicle is left-handed or right-handed, you have to stick to your track, and even if one is not mindful, one has got to be mindful in driving one's car. At the same time, understand the disciplines, the rules of traffic, or traffic rules. At the same time, not to drive at high speed. Otherwise, you will land into accidents. If you land into accidents, then you will not only harm yourself, but harm others at the same time. So the traffic rule is that when the light is green, you just drive on. If it's yellow, you just take caution, slow down, and if it's red, you stop. Such are the rules of the traffic. And if you cannot understand or you cannot do according to the rules of the traffic, then you will not only harm yourself, but harm others. At the same time, you should slow down your speed, drive at a normal speed, not at a high speed, so that you don't make mistakes. It is also important that not only you don't make mistakes, but you've got to see whether other people are making mistakes. Because if other people make mistakes, then also you will be injured. So mindfulness is very important. Mindfulness in driving a car is as important as in the practice of Satipatthana. Then only you will get to your destination safe and sound. Now, in the practice of Satipatthana, If you practice according to the disciplines, according to the guidelines given, then there will be no mistakes. You will not do any wrong things by body, speech and mind. You will be walking the straight, the correct path of discipline. If you are mindful, there won't be any mistakes. Just like when there is red light, you stop your car at the red light. Then you won't make any mistakes. This is the nature of the practice. So, if you practice in this way, you will not harm yourself, you will not be defiled. At the same time, others will not be harmed. Others will not be affected. This is true for those yogis who practice respectfully and carefully. They will be able to walk the right path in their life. Knowing the benefits of Satipatthana, you practice in accordance with the disciplines given or guidelines given. You will be practicing the pure and noble Eightfold Path. If you do that, then you are bound to realize the benefits of Satipatthana in a few days. Those who practice Satipatthana in the correct way are bound to cultivate their physical, verbal, mental behaviors so that their life will become pure and uplifted. And the reverse is true for those who do not practice Satipatthana. Their life will be impure, overwhelmed with defilements such as greed, hatred and delusion, and all sorts of immoral deeds, filthy deeds. And they will not be able to conduct in the right way. They will not be able to be mindful, nor will be able to cultivate concentration or panya, or wisdom. There will be no training, training of Sila Samadhi Panya. Instead, their life will be very violent and despicable. And the reverse is true again for those who practice Satipatthana. They will be able to conduct their behaviors in the right way so that their life will become graceful, cultivated and affable. So there are two kinds of paths, or two paths. One is the right path and the other is the wrong path. And those who wish to be pure and affable and graceful and likable, they will follow the path of Satipatthana. Those who do not follow the practice of Satipatthana, the path of Satipatthana, leaving their mind uncontrolled, indulging themselves, then they will not be able to conduct their physical and verbal behaviors in the right way. It will be like a drunken driver who will end up into accidents because he or she is uninhibited, so that one will wrong oneself at the same time harm others. At this point, it is necessary to talk about Pamada and Appamada. Now this Pamada means walking the wrong path, not knowing what is right or wrong, or one may think the wrong thing as right, feeling and abstaining from what should be abstained, and feeling and observing what should be observed. Not being able to practice the basic human discipline, being negligent In the world, majority of the people are forgetful, they're negligent, they're subject to Pamada, especially in their moral conduct. Even either they don't understand what is moral conduct, or even if they understand, they are very slow in observing the moral conduct. They may be possessed of mundane education and business and wealth and property, but they fail to practice this moral conduct, so that there are many social problems in the world. So once one becomes a human being, it is necessary to conduct oneself in the right way, so that one's life becomes properly cultivated, pure and affable. It is quite necessary. One should be able to abstain from what should be abstained, and observe what should be observed. These should be quite well understood, and not only understand them, but one should be able to follow these disciplines. Follow the disciplines to the successful stage. Whereas Appamada is the reverse of Pamada, it means that one is living with mindfulness. One is always mindful, or one's life is always with mindfulness. If one practices mindfulness or tries to be mindful, then we can say that one has always this sati, one is possessed of sati, and one is practicing sati, not failing to abstain from what should be abstained. If there are things to be abstained or to be avoided, one does it in advance, because one is mindful. One does not fail to do so. And at the same time, one should not fail to observe what should be observed. One should study carefully what should be observed, and then not fail to observe what should be observed. Roughly, there are 10 things which should be abstained. They are known as docharitas, immoral deeds or unwholesome deeds by body, speech and mind. As regards physical misconduct, we have killing, stealing and sexual misconduct. Killing even small insects is immoral. Put yourself in a position of others. You don't want to be killed, so also they don't want to be killed. So with this sympathetic feeling, you can only reason up that you should not kill. And the second one is stealing. You don't want to be stolen of your property. Put yourself in that position. As much as you don't want your property to be stolen, you should not. Others also will not like their property to be stolen. So stealing or taking what is not given is another physical misconduct. And sexual misconduct. Those man or woman under guardianship, if you have some sexual relations illegally, then it amounts to sexual misconduct. There also you can put yourself in the position of your guardian. So just put yourself in the position of the possessor of or guardian of the property, then you will be able to reason out that these are the things to be abstained. If you don't abstain, then you are failing to abstain from what should be abstained. You are being negligent and you are being forgetful. This is Pamada. Now we have this verbal misconduct. When we speak correctly, rightly, friendly, in a sweet way, and in a meaningful manner, instead of telling lies. instead of harsh speech, malicious talk, and in a meaningless way, which are known as vachi ducharitas, verbal misconduct. These are the things to abstain. If you don't abstain, if you fail from abstaining these things, then you'll be practicing Pamada and not practicing Appamada. Now we come to the mental part, mental portion of the immoral deeds. In mental deeds and mental misconduct, there are three things: covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. In the wrong view, you don't view things in the right way, such as good begets good, bad begets bad. Instead of viewing in the right way, in this way, you may hold the view that when you die or when your body breaks up, that's the end of it. There's no more becoming. So that when you know that there's no more becoming, you will do all sorts of things, good and bad things. You will not do good things, because there's no afterlife to realize the good effects. No, instead you will do bad things, because there's no afterlife to suffer the consequences of these bad deeds. So this is again failing to practice moral conduct mentally, not abstaining from what should be abstained, and not observing what should be observed. So we have to understand what we should abstain from: physical, verbal, mental misconduct. And then there should be this zeal to practice this moral conduct, and then follow the path. If on the other hand, if one fails to observe this moral conduct, or one forgets to do it, one is negligent, then one will be Pamada, lack of mindfulness, sati. Then one's actions will become violent, leading to unwholesome consequences, both for oneself and others, leading to complicated social problems. If one does not know what should be abstained or what should be observed, and one does not abstain from what should be abstained and observe what should be observed, then this is Pamada. If one, on the other hand, if one observes in the right way, or should be observed and conduct in the right way, then one is said to be conducting one's physical, verbal, and mental behaviors in the right way, such as sila, samadhi, and panya, which is good for oneself and others. This is a good conduct, and one should observe them. Like when you are eating food, knowing that the certain food items are unwholesome and not suitable for you, you abstain from taking that food. So you should know that what is unwholesome. Knowing that, you abstain from taking that food. Now, at the same time, you must know that some certain items of food are wholesome and suitable for you. You should also not forget to take that food. Otherwise, you will not be able to fulfill your physical energy. So you have to understand both. That is, understand whether the food is unwholesome and whether the food is wholesome. So too with the practice of moral conduct. You must understand what is wholesome and what is not wholesome. what is moral and what is immoral. Then you can practice accordingly. Otherwise, if you does not abstain from what should be abstained, then you are bound to land into dangers. And if you do not observe what should be observed, then you will not realize the benefits of the observation. So this will lead to Pamada, and this Pamada is very dangerous. If one fails to abstain from what should be abstained, and one is negligent, Pamada, then one is bound to be overwhelmed by these internal near enemies. In other words, one is giving a chance, giving opportunities to these internal close enemies, enemies which are within, such as these great hatred, delusion, which are very dangerous, enemies. As for living enemies, such as human enemies, they exist, but you only confront with them at times. If you are careful, you can avoid them. Whereas these internal enemies lie in your self and within, they are very dangerous, they are most dangerous. If one is not mindful, then one is bound to fall prey to these internal enemies, which will gain the upper hand, and indulging in them, one is bound to commit wrongdoing or wrong speech, leading to physical, verbal, mental impurities, leading to violent actions, so that your life will become violent and despicable and impure. Now, by being these internal enemies, self-blame. If you do something unwholesome, you know for yourself that you have done it. So you will blame yourself, at least mentally. This is called Attanuvara Bhaya. Then, since you have done something wrong, then you will be known by the society. Society will blame you because you have done something wrong, and you will be criticized by the society, by the people, by the society. And this kind of danger is known as Paranuvada Bhaya, danger of blame by the society. This will lead to great loss in your life. When you are blaming yourself, when you have done something wrong, you are conscious that you have done something wrong, maybe you are not suffering great loss. But once your wrongdoing is revealed, as revelation, is known by the society, then you are bound to suffer great loss in your life. Then the third danger is Dandabhaya. That is the danger of being disciplined by law. If you have done something wrong, which will infringe the existing regulations, then you are bound to be disciplined by the authorities. So, when you are, especially when you are committing unnatural sensual pleasures, which may lead to very serious consequences, such as dangerous diseases which cannot be cured, and taking intoxicants for which there is no cure, because you are indulgent, you indulge yourself in these sensual pleasures. Because of this indulgence in sense pleasures, you are bound to suffer loss in your life. That is because you are not mindful, or because you are not knowing the consequences in advance. Because you don't understand how to abstain from what you abstain, you are suffering great loss. And because of your wrong chetana, volitional actions, wrong deeds, when you are born into new mind-body becoming, you are bound to land into lower or unwholesome destinies. Of course, these are not seen with your eyes. You may not be able to believe them, but what is happening in front of you in your lifetime are the three dangers. One is Adanuvarabhaya, the danger of self-blame; Paranuvarabhaya, that is danger of blame by society; and Dandabhaya, danger of being disciplined by the authorities. Out of these three things, the first is most dangerous. You cannot avoid it. You may be able to avoid other things if you are very clever, but you cannot avoid. You cannot run away from your own conscience. You cannot cover up your conscience, cover up your wrongdoing. You cannot run away from your conscience. It will be haunting you all the time. So if you are not free from these internal enemies, these are the dangers that you are bound to confront with. So one should understand in advance these immoral deeds, dukkha and their consequences. And then abstain with the concept of hiri ottappa, moral shame and moral fear, or spiritual shame and spiritual fear. If one does not understand that these are unwholesome, then one may not be able to abstain from them. Or even if one understands they are unwholesome, one may not be able to abstain. So that one is bound to meet with great social problems. Now we come to the mental aspect of immoral deeds, which are of three. One is covetousness, evil, and wrong view. It is like taking food, unwholesome food or poisonous food. One should understand it. Understanding it, one should abstain, knowing that they are dangerous, they are poisonous, and they are disgusting. If one takes such food, one is bound to land into trouble, one is bound to suffer. So one should be able to be afraid of it, and one should be able to feel ashamed of doing this. Then one should abstain from doing such things. So one should understand them as being despicable, despise them, and dislike them. And there are these two mental powers are necessary, namely hiri and ottappa, spiritual or moral shame, or spiritual moral fear. These are the two mental powers which one should possess, so that one will be able to abstain from the physical, verbal, and mental misconduct which lead to these dangers we have just discussed. If we commit them, they are bound to give rise to unwholesome, dangerous consequences and dangers which we have just discussed. And we should despise them, and we should be afraid of them. So these two mental powers, hiri and ottappa, spiritual fear, spiritual shame and spiritual fear, if we don't possess them, if we are weak, or if you don't possess these two mental powers, then you're bound to commit unwholesome deeds. Then you'll be committing Pamada, forgetfulness or negligence. Then if you fail from abstaining from what should be abstained, then you're bound to commit these ducharitas, which are despicable and frightful. So one should understand them and possess these two mental energies or mental powers, namely Hiri Bala and Odabha Bala, the power of spiritual shame and the power of spiritual or moral fear from committing these unwholesome ducharitas. In the world, most people don't possess these two wholesome mental powers, mental states, or even if some possess, it is not enough. These two wholesome mental states, Hiri and Odabha, are known as Saga Dhamma, the pure or white states, because they themselves are pure or white, and if one practices them, this will be the cause for purity of physical, verbal, and mental behaviors. That's why, hence the name Sagadama, pure state or white state. If on the reverse is Kannadama, black state, dark state. Now, as for the white one, it can repel unwholesome, immoral things. It can repel the unwholesome states such as greed, hatred and delusion. Just as when you wear white clothes in the sun, it can repel heat. So too, with the white Sugadama, it will repel the unwholesome, immoral deeds, immoral states such as greed, hatred and delusion, which are also hot and tormenting. If on the other hand, if you have reverse, ahirika anodabha, that is lack of moral shame, lack of moral fear, then one is bound to be subject to internal enemies. One will become a prey to internal enemies, leading to dangers which were discussed. And these are Kannadhammas. That's why there's a maxim, not having this with a black background, it will absorb heat. With a white background, it will repel heat. So it is necessary to practice these wholesome mental states so that the black background will not absorb hot or tormenting kilesas. The world is full of this moral shamelessness and moral fearlessness. Hence, there's lack of peace in the world. These two wholesome mental states are also known as Lokapala Dhammas, world protector. Now, protection can be of two ways. One is keeping status quo, protecting by keeping things in the status quo. And second one is to improve so that the world becomes better and better for people to live in. When we say world, it is not the material world that we learn in geography, but we mean living beings on this earth. If one does not understand what this duty does, then one will not despise or become afraid of committing such things. Then one will go on committing them. Only when one knows that they are ducharitas, unwholesome deeds, and only when one despises them, and only when one is afraid to commit them, one will be able to practice moral deeds, moral conduct, or abstain from immoral conduct accordingly. So this is protection of one's own individual world. Hence the name Lokapala. When you say Lokapala, we don't have to say, we don't mean the whole world, but we can protect ourselves in an individual way. By doing that, by protecting one's own individual world, this we can call it Lokapala. If there is no Hiri Ottappa, if one does not possess these two wholesome mental states, Hiri and Ottappa, then there will be no protection. There will be only destruction, such as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, indulging in unwholesome deeds, unwholesome mental states such as great hatred and delusion, so that one's life will suffer. The same goes with verbal misconduct, by telling lies, speaking maliciously, falsely, unfriendly, in an unfriendly manner, in a meaningless manner, one is destroying one's own little world. Again, with the mental misconduct, ducharitas, such as covetousness, ill will, and wrong views, if one does not despise them or be afraid of them, one will find it easy to commit them. Then one will do as one likes, so that one will be destroying again one's own little world by destroying or by committing this immoral conduct. In this way, one destroys one's own little world by misconduct, because there is no Lokapala, no wall protection. Then one does not only destroy one's own little world, but also one destroys the society. Society will not gain any peace, will not be peaceful. If suppose one kills somebody, then one is not only defiled, but one is committing it so as to affect the society. If one steals also, the society will be affected. Same thing goes with other misconduct. So if one is not able to control oneself, one's own little world with sucharita or moral conduct, instead one commits immoral conduct, then one is destroying one's society. In this way, one is said to be destroying the world in general. The world means the world of ducharitas. So this Lokapala Dhamma, because of the lack of Lokapala Dhamma, there are places where they commit what is known as incest, immoral conduct among one's own relatives. These are the internal enemies which one should despise and be afraid of committing. In this way, one should not destroy one's own little world. Because of the lack of this Lokapala Dhamma, world protector, the Hiri Ottappa, not knowing how to abstain, how to control oneself, one is destroying oneself and the world, committing immoral conduct. If one commits them, then these internal enemies, great hatred and delusion, are bound to explode in oneself, leading to problems. They can explode any time, because they are in you all the time. They are internal bombs. We hear about atomic bombs, rockets and things like that. They are dangerous, no doubt, but only at times. Only when there is war, they are dangerous. But as for these internal enemies, because of the lack of Lokapala, they are always dangerous. If without this hiri-ottappa, wholesome mental states, indulging in kilesas, defilements, one is bound to destroy one's own prosperity as well as others. That's why they are more dangerous than the atomic bombs or hydrogen bombs. Understanding them, one should be able to protect oneself in advance and subdue these unwholesome mental states. Otherwise, this will lead to world destruction of the world. If one lacks moral conduct, then the human quality will go down, it will fade away gradually. If, on the other hand, we possess lokapala dhamma, then the quality, human quality, will shine bright. Hence the name Deva Dhamma, meaning shining with good qualities. If one lacks hiri-ottappa, then one's life will be defiled, it will be impure. If one possesses hiri-ottappa, then one's life will shine bright with good qualities. Knowing that the qualities of this Deva Dhamma, that one can shine bright with good qualities and qualify as Deva Dhamma, possessor of Deva Dhamma, then one will despise committing immoral deeds. One will abstain from immoral deeds, and in practice one will abstain from them, so that first of all one will gain purity of physical and verbal behaviors, so that society will regard you and keep you in good esteem, will regard you well. And mentally also, if you are able to cultivate your mind so as to purify it, then there will be more regard and consideration by others. You will be placed in a high position. So as a human being, you will not become ordinary human being. You will occupy a high position as a leader of human society. So in this way, you will be termed, you will be called Samudhi Deva, as a leader of the society, or occupying high position in the society. If one abstains from immoral deeds, Dukkhitas, then eventually you become Upapati Deva, that is the Deva from the Deva land, which is higher in some sense than human beings. So in understanding the benefits of the practice, we follow the path of Satipatthana, abstaining from Dukkhitas, despising them and being afraid of committing them, being fulfilled with sila, morality, knowing that the sensual pleasures, worldly pleasures leads to impurities. You cultivate your mind so that your mind becomes pure, and on top of that, if you cultivate knowledge to the point of eradicating kilesas, the dormant state, the dormant tendencies or latent tendencies of kilesas, eradicating the gross, medium and refined form of kilesas. By conducting in this way, finally you will become Visuddhi Deva, eradicating kilesas to the point of no return by becoming an arhat, the realization of the final path. Then you will shine bright with Visuddhi Deva, which is the best. So in order to reach that stage, the hiri-ottappa, those wholesome mental states, are the basics, two basic things. So now the yogis who are practicing, those people who are devoted in the practice, despise and are afraid of committing physical and verbal misbehaviors, and in their practice they are ashamed and afraid or despise losing their mindfulness, which is most important for them. They take great care and attention not to miss the objects. They despise losing it. They are afraid of losing mindfulness, so that they activate their mindfulness continuously, energetically and precisely, so as to reach finally the Visuddhi-deva. Then you realize the purity of physical, verbal and mental behaviors. Let alone, let's leave aside, talk about the mind and insight. Let us think, just look how we practice moral deeds and abstain from immoral deeds, ducharitas. What will the society think about you if you are abstaining from unwholesome deeds, ducharitas? You practice, you conduct yourself in a good way, physically and verbally also, speaking correctly, rightly, friendly way, in a sweet manner, in meaningless way. What will the society think about you? Society will recognize you as a good human being, and they will rely on you. They will depend upon you and put you in a high position. They will consult with you for certain matters of importance. That is because of Hiri-ottappa, because it is the power of Hiri-ottappa is strong, and you are in a good way. Now the yogis are practicing. They despise and are afraid of committing unwholesome deeds. They are afraid of breaking the sila. They are afraid of losing their mindfulness. So the teachers also, the meditation teachers also know when they are interviewing you how much you are careful and mindful. They are very encouraged. It's very encouraging that you are able to do that. Then there will be faith and encouragement. This will lead to Visuddhi-deva, because then you will become something to be relied upon. And the root cause of this stage of Visuddhi-deva, the path of Visuddhi-deva, lies in two wholesome mental states, Hiri and Ottappa. So we have this Pamada and Appamada in three forms: gross, medium and refined. When you commit ducharitas, for instance in a violent way, physically violent, then you are committing Pamada in a very gross way. If you abstain from doing that, you are practicing Appamada in a gross way, which will bring about good consequences. So today we just we discussed the gross forms of Pamada and Appamada. We shall discuss the other forms, medium and refined forms, tomorrow and day after. That's all for today.